Hello, and I would like to praise God the Father and His Son Jesus Christ. Welcome to our Sabbath service. We have a testimony, and Sister Marilyn Lutz from Idaho will share her testimony to us. Marilyn, please.
Yes, I be glad to share my testimony, and these testimonies are very helpful, and I've enjoyed the ones so far. We learned so much from each other by sharing, and I'd like to ask the Lord at this time for a short prayer before I give my testimony. Let's bow our heads. I thank you, Lord, every day, and I'm so happy that you're in my life. And I pray that everything I say will be what you would have me say, that it would edify and help other people, and that I continue every day to do as what pleases you and help me bring all those to you that will come my way. And thank you so much for sending your beloved Son to help us, to save us, to teach us, and be an example of what we should be each and every day. In Jesus' name, I thank you so much, Lord. Amen. Well, my story starts in Illinois, as I was born there, and I'm now 67 years old, and thankful for each day the Lord has given me. And there nothing as dramatic as the stories that have been told, especially the last one with Ron and his tornadoes. I've always been afraid of tornadoes. It's like, I think I had dreams when I was a child that a tornado would be coming, and then I freeze and can't even move. And that's because there was insecurities, I think, in the family, and you'd be afraid. But now that I have the Lord, I'll get on to the story about like how the fire in Idaho and how secure I felt with that. But staying in Illinois for now, I grew up with my sister, Abigail, and she's on here now. And she was the oldest. And then my sister, Carol, was born, and then I. And my mother did have us all quickly together. Her brother, my uncle, was 11 years difference, and she thought, well, have 3 children close together so we'd have somebody to play with and be happy. But sometimes there's a little bit of sibling rivalry anyway, and we kind of would a little bit squabble a little bit, but we can see that the Lord works things out. And one area where I definitely could have been hurt badly is when we do have little sibling rivalry. I remember once running up to my room in my house. So this house had 4 bedrooms. My mother's was in and father's, the front of the house on the that side, and then my sister Abigail was this side, and at the back of the house was my sister Carol's at this side, and then my room was here above the kitchen and whatever. Her sister Carol's was above just where we had the to go into the basement, and to go into the basement was an area that was stairs, concrete, ledges. And so when children teasing, I don't even remember why they'd be teasing me, but I remember I wanted to get away from them. I ran into the house, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll just climb up. And seeing them in the backyard, I was like hey, you can't get me because I'm up here. I'm safe. You can't get me. And then guess what? I didn't know screens fell out real nice and easy. So I'm like leaning against them saying, you can't get me. So guess what? I went out the window. This is the second story. So I go out the window and I land in where there's the softer part, the garden and daylilies and things that pushing me a little. And I'm realizing if my bedroom would have been planned to be the back one, where would I have landed? The concrete steps, what would I have bounced off of there? I'm thinking, uh-oh, but I wasn't hurt. My mom could tell I wasn't hurt bad because I could just get up, and I was hollering because I was scared. And I'm running back in because my mom was in the bedroom. I think she was just picking stuff out of the hamper and gonna do our wash. And she's like, "Where's the?" You could hear me screaming, running back, but she could tell I wasn't hurt because the Lord protected me that time. So that could have been a bad one. So so in Illinois, let's see, anything. Well, my other thing is in Illinois that, well, I was in the middle of, we were in childhood. My two sisters were older. So when they got to the part about boys, and I guess you can see Abigail's testimony for that, when they're interested in boys, I'm still playing with Barbie dolls. And the neighbors, I'm still playing with Barbie dolls. So, so when I guess we would do it a little bit together. That when my mom would leave, I'd kind of, play chef, cook our own food. But I got into that too much, way too much. So the year or two that I'm doing nothing, I'm eating too much. And so very fastly, I'm going from right to wrong weight, eating wrong things. I got up to way too heavy. But I'm thankful to the Lord that I did when I say, hey, I can't even button my gym suit. This is enough that we do. He did give me enough self-control to say, hey, that's enough. Stop that. And then I lost the weight down to a fairly, you could go and we know some people that have gotten, even morbidly obese. You could go all the way from that, or just getting very heavy to morbidly obese. So I'm thankful that I stopped overeating like that. And now the Lord was with Adventist eating and knowing good. I'm trying to get, it really right where you feel well. One thing is I don't drink enough water sometimes, and then that's not good for your body, but I'm trying to get the perfect amount of everything. So, because that's very important to our spiritual health to, not be abusing our bodies. And that's the sad part of our sister that's in the middle. We believe that she definitely is not doing right with her health. She has, for one thing, smoked for 10 years before my sister Abigail convinced her to not do that. And she smoked because she was afraid she was being looked upon as she was get a little heavy, a little chubbier to begin with too. And she took that as, oh, what can I do? What can I do so that I'm not looked upon that way? So instead of looking at a jogger or somebody that's healthy, and looking and saying, oh, how do you get healthy? She looked at this one that was scrawny and whatever, and not well, because she was a smoker. She looked at a smoker and asked her, well, how do you keep the weight off? And the person told her, I smoke. So that's how my sister Carol got into smoking, and that damaged her. And then the years that she would just focus on that eating and make herself sick with that, and there was all kinds of things with her. So we really pray, because that leads the devil in where he can just do all kinds of things in her life. So, but as far as my life, so from Illinois, I was still 17 when the parents got broken up. And I know it was my grandmother on my father's side, his mother, that wanted the divorce. His parents, the mother and father, they broke up back early. And then my grandpa, I remember him, he was a decent person, but I don't remember him real well, but he was kind, and he gave us all a like a $500 savings bond when we were young, and that kind of taught us to, like, you got it now, but I'm giving it now, but see, if you wait, this $500, will be ready in, years and years. It was probably like a 10-year bond. So he gives it to us and tells us, well, it'll be, that teach you patience and it teach you savings. So that's a very good thing. But yeah, sadly, he was a little overweight and whatever, and just, he didn't live past like his 70s. So yeah, we had to go out to Pennsylvania for his funeral, and that was very sad. And but that, so I haven't seen much of the country. So Illinois and the States, going to Pennsylvania, and until the divorce, I was only in Illinois. But in Illinois, I went to Florida after her parents broke up. I stayed with mother, my mom to Florida, and then because her parents were in Florida, so that's where I stayed in Florida most of the time, except we kind of moved back and forth during summers because we found it terribly hot, and my father would always kind of want to get back together, but then his mother would convince him not to. So a trip back and forth, and that's where my time ended up going. I mean, your life, like, here goes 10 years of it. I know, I wish I would have been wiser to get my own place and earlier, but I did not. You just get into, it becomes habits of doing, things. You get into a habit, moving back and forth and back and forth. Even my job, monotonous. I ended up in Florida with a job of, the first Florida job was a cashier, in a store, cash and carry. But then we did move back and forth. So I ended up like cashiering next in back in Illinois for the, it was a place that was Kmart. It started out Robert Hall Village, and they went out of business, and I got my job there. And then we moved back. So in '84 is when I actually moved back permanently to Florida. I didn't move back and forth anymore, but here I'm like, like almost 30 right there. Yeah, 29. So then it's like her parents, the grandparents were born just after the century started in 01 and 201. So if it was 84, they were like 83 years old, and they seem to do all right until they're about 89, and then they start where they need help. My grandfather had glaucoma, and he was blind in one eye from having that. And then my grandmother, her eyesight too going as well. She couldn't even see to put the drops in his eyes, and we had to kind of help them when they were getting old. And so I was there to do that. And then after, there was a time when the Lord protected me when I was driving to my job. I got at the Walmart there in Zephyr Hills, Florida. I was headed for work and probably around a mile away from the house. It's not as dramatic as Jonathan's, where, well, anyway, the car did turn over, didn't flip a whole bunch of times or landed there, but a man came he came through the stop sign because he was late for work. So he just went at a speed that was like, I imagine like highway speed, 60 miles an hour at least, because I looked at him and thought, oh, well, he can never get there. He's like a block and a half off. By the time I get to the middle of the intersection, I'm thinking, he could, but but then I just go a little further and I feel him into the bumper, and he spun the car. And the car, yeah, I could feel it was spinning, turning around, and I didn't know if it would just stop, but no, you could feel the wheels picking up over on its roof. So it ended up over on its roof. But I was not injured because I had my seatbelt on. So the Lord protected me there. I was able to crawl out and even able to go to work. I had a scuff in my thing, my arm, because of the seatbelt turning it off upside down and getting out. I went out of that car because it could catch fire or anything. So I wanted out. And I was safe then from that. And my mother had to drive me to work that day. She was able to drive at that time. So she had her own car and drove. And then I think after that, my grandparents let me have their little red, I think it was a Fairmont, maybe. Yeah, but that thing, they didn't do the oil change right. It was like almost a ride now. But so after that, let's see. In Florida, I am blessed by picking up aloe plant near the neighbor's house. You can still Google and see where that is. It's like down the street where we lived, and I even see the house and in Florida. That you can see it years later. They did the 2022, and you can kind of visit the place without even going there. It's very interesting how we're able to do those things, and I can kind of like stroll down the street and see, well, that's where I picked up my aloe plant. And I do find it's so nice that the Lord does that for us. He can take one aloe plant that I picked up, I planted it in this little area, the little triangular area in there, and I'm thinking, okay, well, next year I have like 3 or 4. Okay, well, I'll divide those, and I'll put some here, and each one of those starts having, it's like the Israelites, they start, or even Adam and Eve's children that we all are of, that you see how quickly they can get to many. Sadly, nowadays, people don't respect that these are all children of God and love. They selfishly think, well, what if they, cause this climate change? And because each of them are selfish, they do these things and just me, and just destroy the planet. We know that the Lord will have to destroy those that are destroying the earth and respect him not. And we can be protected as they'll get angry at us if we're keeping the commandments of God too. All know that. But yes, my aloes I really like because they're multiplying, and I'd like to give each and every one. Too bad we can't just give it because it takes a little to get these things. But I think this is the most helpful plant. It helped me with my eye, the pain of it. It helps me with all the infirmities you have, that I just really like that plant, and I feel blessed that the Lord gave me that plant. And so we brought some here, and they are multiplying here now, although it's harder being the cold climate. You have to put them inside. But as far as the next important thing in my life, I think, was that being in the family I was, they were not reading the Bible at all. There was nothing out of just going to church, and that my mother would in the church in Illinois, she would just, okay, I'll type up the bulletin for the pastor and just be, okay, this is my worth and value, and this, is like, that was her thing. Like, it's not just doing that you should be doing. You should be living with Christ in you. And we didn't see that in the way she just would worry about everything, just worry, instead of, be calm and trusting, and we just didn't see any of that in my father. I actually saw more. There was temper and anger, and especially over issues of like he wanted a son and a second, or I mean, after a third child, he still wanted a fourth, and you could hear arguments, and those kind of things are, even damaging to children. And yeah, I realized that, and so I don't want to get into that one. You can see part one that you could see on another. Anybody want to see that? But I don't want to see that. I want to leave it behind me the way the other one, Chris, was saying that he saw a testimony done by Maxine, and she was helpful because she was talking about, water under the bridge, just, let it go. And we all do need to leave the things in our past that we can learn from the past, but we shouldn't just, be stuck in the past. We need to, that's why the Lord, I'm thankful for him now leading me day by day. So after we get, let's see, we're in Florida, and that I had my job there. I don't know if anything really, really interesting there happened besides not that much. So besides just taking care of the parents until each one, at first my grandmother, she passed away, and then my grandfather after that, and then my father, and then my mother, and then then when they all had passed away, my sister Carol was down there because she was taking it bad, and I was hoping she would, after my dad's death, be better, and to just be down there and with my mother, and maybe encouraging her not to have the habit she had. One of the very debilitating and habits was my mother was over being obsessive, compulsive about germs, afraid, fearful. Instead of letting God protect you, like in Psalms 91, I will not let any, plague come your way. You could tell us, and not trusting. She's just fearful, like and I wish I would have been, but I know the Lord leads you in the way, but she would have had to tell her, no, this is silly. I mean, she needed therapy about they take people and give them therapy, but if you're not wanting this therapy and just saying, you talk about things, and she'll say, you're making me nervous. So I let her go on with that. But of course, she must have cut 10 or 15 years off her life by doing that, and want to be not the 8 good rules that Ellen White thought of health, and just be in the house. And well, Florida's too hot. I can't say that you could be out all the time, but there's lots of time you can be out and get the sunshine. And then and for water, she would drink iced tea, which I think is dehydrating. So instead of just plain water, she'd drink tea. Although she made her tea very low on the tea part, but she'd still add sugar, maybe a teaspoon each time she'd drink a glass. And so that's not good. White sugar too. So she wouldn't follow those rules of health. So, and not wanting to exercise was the last of it. I tried to convince her exercise. I just tried to convince her, and she said, no, you're making me nervous. And with the germ phobia and stuff, she wouldn't even allow my poor sister that came down, Abigail, to visit. And she would say, like, if I even keep talking about it, I'm putting a knife in her back to keep talking about letting my sister come in the house, even if she took her shoes off. So, so that's not a very good family. But they did teach us good things. I mean, there are good things. That's why we're a mixture of good and evil. I mean, from my mother, I got the stories from her that like how her mother made her bring back something she took from the store, which she just took this little toy elephant that was on the, like a sort of like Cracker Jack would put a thing attached to the box, but so she saw it on the outside, but it wasn't Cracker Jack because they put their gifts inside. So she said she just took it. And then her mother, my grandma on her side, made her take it back and tell the person that she had my mother say to this person that she had taken this thing. And then I thought to myself, well, I don't want that to happen to me. So I said, no, I don't want that to happen. That's especially me, because I'm shy of stuff. So I thought, oh, don't do that. Don't steal. And she would teach us like other lessons of that of honesty and not lying and things like those rules. But I just I fear for whether she'll be saved, because she didn't really have that close relationship. But we do leave that up to the Lord. Of course we do, and we forgive any and every way that they hurt us and they don't even know. So I do forgive that. I so wish she would have wanted to read the Bible more. What she said when I'd ask her, say, let's read, and it would be like, well, she started to read the Bible and she'd say she was confused in the names of Genesis, couldn't get them all straight and stuff. You don't have to get them all straight. You just have to know that this genealogy will even lead you to, Jesus you can just quickly, you don't have to memorize names or anything like that. You just have to know that this is God's plan from Genesis to the end in Revelation, that this is this word, and you can believe every word. And so my reading the Bible and finding out, although she didn't want to, and I know my father gave us Bibles, and for a while mine just stayed on the shelf. And then you hear these people say, well, the Bible does open. It does. It actually opens. Yeah, you can take it and open it. It's not just something to display on the shelf. And after hearing things like that, and then my sister Abigail, of course, that was far ahead of me and into the religion. You could hear her testimony, and you haven't. All of us have, I think. I'm assuming all of you had, but anyway, it's on Mark's site too, that about her getting into that with her friend Rhonda, and getting, you need Jesus first. And so taught her. And then of course she to me taught me all about the different things, a bit about the Sabbath, and I knew she was keeping it. And my grandmother was Sunday keeping because she was Methodist. And see, this is something I keep even too long, the Methodist. Well, that comes out backwards, doesn't it? When you show, because it's a mirror image. But this is a Methodist Bishop of the Boys and Girls, and that I had to read to be a member of the Methodist Church, and I did that. But they weren't as apostate back then. I mean, they talked about Jesus, and they talked about that he was born and raised as like us, and had to go through the stuff we went through. But then they do say that how he differed. They say Jesus was God's son completely, sharing God's thoughts and purposes. He was God's word speaking to man, a real human person who is also God's own son, God's own word, God's own thoughts and purposes, calling men to righteousness and goodness. God's love expressing itself to men, love and companionship and forgiveness and suffering. How this all can be is a great mystery. Well, they don't get into as bad as the Catholics, who their mystery is like making a third being and then saying, oh, it's a mystery. But no, I didn't really get any third being in there. So I was like, oh, I don't see a third being there. So when I read the Bible, no, I didn't come out with a third being either. I read it from cover to cover, and no, I didn't see a third being. But I did that knowing that at any time, they can take the Bible from us, throw us, and whenever they can do that. But they did it in the past. They chained up the Bibles, and you couldn't even get them. So I made sure that, oh yes, I will do that, especially when I heard on the radio God's was having people probably tell me, I think it's God's providence, that you just hear things and somebody tells you, you can read the Bible from cover to cover in like 6 months, just spend 30 minutes a day. And I can do that. Or maybe it was even 15 minutes a day, but whatever I did, I ended up doing it in about 3 months worth of time, because I just read and read until, whether it was 30 or whatever minutes I read. I said, just kept reading it. And so I finished the entire Bible. And of course, each day, and that you read it more and more, it just becomes, it's treasures that you just store up and just realize even fuller and fuller what he means, so that we don't get like his disciples and he has to tell us, are you really so dull? When not thinking, when he's trying to tell them that you can't defile yourself by just not washing your hands. Should have told that to my mom, not washing your hands. No, she thought you could defile the germ. But and that they were so dull or bad, and then where they just don't understand even about the leaven of the Pharisees that he's talking. Don't do as they're doing, because they're blind guides, so you'll fall into a ditch. So you gotta read it and reread it to really and study that and get deeper and deeper meaning every day. So let's see, where are we now? We're still in Florida, I guess. So then let's see. Let's see, in Florida. I think I was still in Florida. Walmart, yes, I think so. I've been in, so there'll be like the original Walmart in Florida, and it was in one place near Highway 54. But then that store, we said, oh, we'll move to one near a bigger street, 301. So until our final super center was built, they just kind of half of a building took that and was in that one. And when they did the final building, that was right after the 9/11 to 2002 that they finished that building. So, but I do believe it's in the very, let's see, is it in the first building? No, I think it was the second. I better keep I think it was the final, because I think it was a super center. I think it was I think it was the final building now. It was it must have been near 2002, I think, because I think I know that it was a child was shopping with its parents and siblings. The siblings were small children, maybe 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. They could walk and whatever. They were down looking at the everything, and when the parents weren't really paying much attention to the child at all. And I guess there were ones that weren't real responsible, let's say, maybe ones that really should be watching their children better, like what they're doing, because they think it's really they shouldn't do things, is what I'm saying, is because what they did is set the child on the conveyor belt, and you ride them along, and there was no big thing in that, but that's just what I'm getting at, that they're not really watching their children. So I just carefully had the child come on the belt since they did it, and made sure to turn it off before you could get pinched at the end of the belt and stuff. And but the big thing is that this child must have been given something by his siblings, I'm assuming, because as I noticed, he was on the belt, and he was okay in pink for a while, but then all of a sudden I can tell this child's color is turning from pink to different shades of like lesser than pink, and like, uh-oh, he's turning even bluish, and I'm like, this is not good. And from my sister's medical training and just even watching other things. My mother would watch too much TV. That's one other thing I didn't put on her. She's a TV-aholic. But anyway, the child was starting to gonna go out soon because he was just starting to go limper. And I'm like, you got to do something now. So yeah, my parents, when I was choking on, like I had it, but I don't think it was blocking my airway totally. I kind of was sucking on like a peach pit, and I could tell that that thing was in my throat. They were probably flared. It was totally blocking my airway, but I could just feel it was like a, but I don't think it was totally blocking my airway. But I know to get it out, they kind of wrapped me on the back, and I did cough that pit out. I got it out of my throat. It's like, oh, because it wouldn't even be good to swallow that, but because it's a big peach pit. I didn't know what this child had in their airway, but I knew I just had to do that too, is just take this baby and wrap on this baby and see if I could, get something. And then after a bit of doing that, then finally I noticed instead of being just this blue and almost going out, it was reversing. It was getting pinker and pinker. And oh, thank you, Lord, because this baby will die. And the parents they're still even oblivious to like what's going on. I knew that it was like, uh-oh, because your baby's turning blue. I didn't want to scare them or frighten them about what was happening, but it's like, this baby's turning blue. So then the Lord did allow me to, he had me save that baby. So I'm praying that baby will be saved in heaven and that he had a good life. I'm hoping. Yeah, we never know when we see somebody how they are, but we'll always pray for each and every soul that ever came, that every piece of literature that we went and gave out, we'll pray. We just keep praying for everybody. But I thought that was like, I thank the Lord for that he allowed me to keep this poor baby from dying. And then let's see, in Florida, and then so after my parents had passed away in Florida, then my sister Carol had come down, and like I was saying, and she was still like not good with us, and she, especially after my mother passed away, she was blaming and saying things. But the Lord has a way of, I would have felt guilty to move away, even though, I thought, well, why should I? Because I told her to come down, but she wasn't being good or kind or anything to us. She was very, very disturbed when she was in the hospital. The last, just before my mom, you could see she was just highly not in her right mind. So she had said to me that, Marilyn, I, never forgiven you, and that for what happened to my mom, and like I could have helped, but she said that I want you as far away from me as possible. So the Lord made that possible. That it made me not feel as guilty, that was her wishes. So we thought, okay. So when my sister Abigail did think that, yeah, maybe she also would like to go to a nicer climate. Oregon wasn't so nice. There was ice storms and different stuff, and now we're back up in the cold again. That's where I started, with the cold in Illinois, and this is where I'm ending here in Idaho, but kind of made a full circle. And sort of when you look at it too, Illinois, Florida, California, Idaho. So you got almost a circle if you could connect Idaho quite to Illinois. You got a little bit more prairie land in between, but yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know if we'll have to go to Dakotas for more freedom. A little further over. No, but anyway, we're yeah. So I did go, and it's kind of interesting how the Lord leads. He led us to go together, and just that He opened up two different houses, and they're within a mile apart, and each one very good for. Because I kind of even looked on mine online. I'm thinking, yeah, that looks like just what I, would like to live in. The place. It just appealed to me. Like it's just like sort of the Lord's saying, yes, that's your house. That's going to be your house. And Abigail, it's funny the house she ended up with. Abigail and Lonnie, they had in her temporary her work assignments that she'd come down, and it's one they had come around, and they had grabbed this for sale flyer back years ago, like in 2006. And think, oh, that price out. And that's the way you should never say. But it's funny how my sister Abigail will say, "This will never happen." And then as soon as she says that, it happens, But it's like we could never have this house, Like, look at the price. We could never have this house. And then when we're ready to come down there, guess which one is on sale? What's in the real estate market? That house. And for not quite half, but almost like two, like what percent, maybe like 40% off. So different that they could barely afford that house, It's especially after more time working and whatever. She thought, well, yeah, I guess we could do that. We'll put in a bid. So we each ended up with the houses there in California. But then of course we're trying to get good food and like getting trees planted and doing all this for the property. But then in comes, we realize with what's going on in this world is when 2019 and 2020, it's like, this might be too, close to, we should be country living. We should be out of here. Although the people, it's funny how it's comparison to like, she showed people that are in the more tightly city, and they go, oh wow, country, because you still have your neighbor next to you. You're only like whatever there was, like a acre and a half or something. It's not big. Mine was like a 0.26 or something like that. It was small, and not even like a much more than a quarter acre. But I did have enough room I had apricot trees. I put in trees all along, and they had the original, or you had have a lime tree and a navel orange tree, and it was all good fruit. So yes, it's a little hard to leave that, but we could see what's coming. We know what's coming. So we did have to leave that. And so it was it was quite a journey from the Florida. It was a 6-day journey that would be very tiring, but you just have a peace and a joy in your heart that the Lord is with you. You know that you're not alone. The Lord is going to help me, even though I couldn't drive. I mean, I didn't know how to drive a truck, a U-Haul truck myself. I had no experience at it anyway, but they do make them comfortable and enough like a car, but I still didn't have any, I'm hauling, I hauled on the dolly my car behind me. So this made it much more of a challenge, and especially lane changing with aggressive drivers to get over and all those kind of things. And we did hear the story about friends that were moving and had all their possessions in a U-Haul truck, and they just went into the motel, just took their bag, few things in their suitcase, and went in, spent the night, and come out. Where's the truck? it's gone. It was all gone. Somebody had stole the whole truck. So then when the police even find it, all their stuff is rifled through and, whatever's missing. It's like, don't want that to happen. So I actually did just spend, different places. There was like a little church or something where I first pulled off, and probably the same one that Abigail and she would go, because it described it. And just each day you just pick a different place, even if it was just a truck stop or whatever. And one was like a scenic rest area that was up in the rocks. But each day was a place, and you just still felt so comforted that the Lord was with you and protecting. You can go through anything when the Lord is protecting you. So we did that, and then got to the California. So in California, so we got those 2 houses, and then of course I transferred my Walmart from Florida to California. They accepted me, so I could kind of continue that service, so that I could be a long service cashier and there. And then one thing that I was happy of is sometimes you get away with. I know they probably don't like this. I had to like quiet times of the day, like sharing the Lord. they wouldn't really like you to share, the Lord, but you had to be careful. Careful and just talk to the people, and everything would kind of lead you to God. Every conversation, like, "Oh, beautiful day that the Lord has made." And if they accepting, then you can even start talking in more depth. And one man, I remember I talked to him about how how good God is, and how wonderful and loving. And yes, and then I don't know if he mentioned anything about, that he sort of wondered, about that God, about the heaven and hell, about the whether people would be tortured. And I told him the scriptures that, that showed that God doesn't torture people in hell, that, it's either those that have the Son have life, and those that don't have the Son do not have life. So if you don't have life, you're not tortured in hell. So yeah, he actually shook my hand, and he's like, yes, he could realize that, yes, God doesn't torture people. So yeah, I was thankful for those times, and different times that I could share with people. Although, I'm sad that you can't even do at Walmart. You can't, like, if you want to give a person like your change, like a few cents, so that they don't have to run back for a different bag of cat food, you're not allowed to. But I had to obey their rules, but sometimes their rules are like, why would that? But I wish the other people behind, because sometimes maybe it's not out of that they're just grateful to the person, or they want to, or just be nice, that they just want to get the people going, but they didn't see that. So the poor person had to go back and choose something else. And then sometimes you get the person that is angry because you take them and they think they're next in line, but you try to explain, well, that person had to run back and they were waiting before. And and sometimes they'll even storm out and not even listen about that. There's such anger in this world. That's horrible. So that's the reason I actually, the last straw of it, that was people with this COVID thing, and they were giving me all kinds of trouble about, it's where they tell you, at first they tell you a mask does no good, because of course they didn't even have enough masks for anybody. So they'll tell you, don't wear a mask, masks are no good. So then I actually had one, because I just had one, even in a 95. So go ahead and wear it and whatever. And then somebody like, why are you wearing a mask? That does no good. And my sister, of course, being a nurse, knows that N95s would, protect you and them, and it keeps the germs from going back and forth, and that's a good thing. And then the customer was irate and said, I don't care that your blankety blank, obscenity's sister, what I'm like, okay, like, but I was not mean to her, but I just asked her, and told her, well, we know these kind of things, and started talking about, this that I believed that it kind of could be signs of the last days. And I just, don't ask him, do you believe in Jesus? That made her mad. So of course that's the times you get hauled into the but then I gave even the people kind of a sermon, the bosses, about being the I know the Lord is coming soon, and that I can't not say things when I feel impressed. But I did also tell them I didn't like the fact that the over-the-counter things that they have to prevent the babies, which I love, the babies, people choose to make them not implant. And this medication is available over the counter, and I would have to ring it up. I see the cute child in their cart and think, well, don't you want to have them, you have one maybe going to come, and you're afraid that, this might inconvenience you, so you're making sure it won't. I'm like wanting to say that and think that to them. So I kind of told work that I don't want to ring up any of these. Can't I just, tell them go to the self-checkout or get somebody else to ring it out the way they do alcohol? If you're not old enough, they won't let you ring up alcohol. If you're not like of age, you can't ring up alcohol. But I had to ring up alcohol. I had to ring up cigarettes, but that's the last straw when I have to ring up something that I believe in. That's something I don't believe in. So I told them, no, I'm not gonna do that. So then in 2020, I told them, no. It was April 2020 that I said, no, that'll be my last day, even though I had a little bit till I'm 65. I'd fill in with insurance and that kind of thing. But so that was the in California, and then we did decide that yes, it's not a good place. So we looked into finding our home in the country here. So the Lord did open up this place we're in now. He opened this up for us, and our friends found it and took pictures of it. Abigail and Lonnie had to make a couple, 2-3 trips to look for things, and then they at first and didn't find it, but then the Lord did at the right time open it up. And the even house was owned by the Adventist, and then next door our neighbor, a retired pastor and Adventist. So it's like, wow. Okay. But there are things that, like not having a wood shed and having to build a wood shed and not a big garden, and other things that we might just have to either go and build unless the Lord actually opens another place that's absolutely perfectly made. So we'll see. We are always day by day, whatever the Lord can lead us to. So that's where we are today. And I think I left out about our all about our baptisms in Matoma. We had they had the wrong doctrines in those, but we told them we only believe in what's in the Bible, and we only believe like the older pioneers of the Adventists, and we won't say that we believe in any of that stuff that they try to push on people now. We don't believe that. So yeah, that, and where else? I think I left out, I skipped some stuff somewhere. So, well, of course, you're going to have questions and answers as I can give, but yes, I think this is probably a long enough. But with just every day, I'm thankful for each and every day. The Lord, yes, is in my life.